Hello everyone, hope you all are doing great and welcome back. And in this video we are going to be looking at deleting multiple rows from a list in SwiftUI 4. Alright, so list is one of the most commonly used and convenient view in SwiftUI, and list actually combines for each, which adds even more cooler features in the list views. Now in this video, we are going to be exploring multi-row delete functionality for list. All right, for this, we'll start with a list of DevTechie courses in a state property. All right, so let's go ahead and jump onto the Xcode. And what we're going to do is inside this content view, we're going to create a private variable, a state variable. Okay. The variable is going to be called courses, and it's going to be an array. So I'm going to simply copy and paste so the courses that are available for you to look at in at devtechie.com. Now, one of the course we are coming up with is WidgetKit, newer addition to WidgetKits using iOS 16. That's about to be released. So check out devtechie.com. If you're watching it later on, it's probably already there. So yeah. So once we have this variable available for us to use, next we will add variable for edit mode, which will actually be the mode that indicates whether the user can edit a view's content or not. Okay, so we're gonna simply create another state variable, and this is going to be called editing mode. Now we're going to use edit mode, which is a view and its inactive property. So we're going to initialize this with inactive. Now what we are doing here is we are creating just a variable saying that current editing mode for our view, the state of editing state of our view is inactive. All right. Now let's go ahead and add one more state property, and this will basically hold selections from the list view. Now this is going to be a set because we're going to be holding multiple values, and we want to make sure that values that we are holding are unique in nature. Now that's what set does, and we are not creating a dictionary or an array of string here, because what we need is basically a unique entry. And if you insert anything in the set, and if set already has that value, it actually simply ignores the value and doesn't insert it. So it guarantees that a set actually guarantees that the items that are stored within the variable that is of set type are unique in nature. So they're pretty much all of them unique, and that's what we want. Next, we're gonna create a private computed property, or rather properties, to build delete and edit buttons. Now edit button, depending upon the edit mode for the view, will show edit or done button on the trailing side of the navigation bar. Okay, so we're going to create computed properties. So we're going to start with the edit button. This is going to be a computer property that will return some type of view. Now we're going to create a group, and we're going to check our editing mode here. So we're going to say editing mode, is it inactive? If it's inactive, do this, otherwise do this. Okay, now within the inactive state, what we want to do is we want to show a button with an action. And the action is going to be, we're simply going to take the editing mode and we're going to say set it to active. Essentially, we are toggling the state from inactive to active. And we are saying self.selected items is equal to set of string and initialize it with an empty. Okay, so we are clearing the selected items variable. Okay, now for the view, we are simply going to set or show edit. Okay, for the else condition, we're gonna show a button. The action this time around is basically going to be setting the edit mode as inactive, and also once again we are going to take our selected item and we're going to make sure that it's actually reset. All right, so both times we want to make sure that we are resetting, and I don't think we're going to need self. Yeah, so let's go ahead and remove self and leave it without it, and we're gonna make sure that we have a text view which has a done button. Okay, so when we are in inactive mode, we're gonna show in edit, and when we are in the active mode, we're gonna show done. All right, for the delete button, we only want to show the delete button when the view is in editing mode. Okay, so once again, another computed property, delete button. This is going to return once again a some sort of view. Okay, and this is once again going to be a group with editing mode, watching the editing mode. If it's in the inactive state, is it equal to inactive state, we're going to show an empty view, which is basically going to show nothing. And then we're going to have an else condition, and in the else condition we're going to have our button, and for the action we're going to basically call a function called delete courses. This function is not created yet, so we're going to create that in a minute. For the view, we're going to create a system name, which is going to be trash SF symbol system name. Okay, now our Xcode is complaining that we don't have this function, so let's go ahead and satisfy that requirement and create a private function. So I'm going to go down below body and going to create a private function called delete courses, which is not going to take any parameter because the items that we need to delete, they're all stored in selected items. So we're going to simply go over each item in the selected item, and as you can see with Xcode 14, it's actually relatively easy to write these for loops because it actually autofills for you. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to first find out the index. So if let index is equal to courses dot last index, we're gonna basically use where, and this is gonna be comparing if the item at the 0th index is equal to the item that we are iterating over. Okay, so this is basically going to give us the index for course to be removed, and we're going to simply say courses.remove at the index that was found earlier. Okay, now once again we want to make sure that our set is basically once we have removed all the items, our set is initialized to empty, so selected items is set as empty and ready to basically add more items. Okay, reason we are doing this because we want to make sure that we don't delete something that doesn't exist anymore inside our array. Okay, so now in the body property, we will basically add a list inside a navigation stack and toolbar to add the navigation bar buttons. All right, so essentially we're going to go into our body, and I'm going to remove everything and going to add a navigation stack. Inside the navigation stack, like I said, we're going to add a list. Right, this list is going to take selection parameter, which is going to be bound to the selected item variable, state variable that we've created right here. Okay, now this is going to make sure whenever list is in editing mode and whenever we are selecting something, they are stored inside this selected items. Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to write a for each over courses ID by self, because it's an array of string, which is a hashable type. So it's easy for each to create that ID itself by the hash value. Now, for each gives us access to each individual course while it is iterating over, and we're going to take that and we're going to display the course in a text view. All right, now we're going to actually add a navigation title, and we're going to say DevTechie courses, or DevTechie courses on devtechie.com, of course. For the environment, we're going to say the key path for the environment is going to be the editing mode. That's what we are actually subscribing for, or rather binding to the editing mode variable. That's why we created this. Okay, and then we're going to add a toolbar. Now this toolbar is going to have toolbar item, and we're going to define the placement, and we're going to say the first placement, the placement for first item is going to be at the leading edge on the navigation bar toolbar, and this is where we want to show our delete button. And there's going to be another toolbar item with the placement, and this is going to be a trailing side, and content is basically going to be our edit button, not editing mode. Okay, so now this is basically ready, and we have done everything that we needed to do. Once again, what we have done is we've created 3 state properties. One is to hold all the courses that we want to operate on, that we want to display basically on the list view. Editing mode property, so we can actually start changing or toggling between editing and done state for the list or for the view. Selected items, so whenever user is selecting items, those items can be stored inside the selected items, so we can actually delete them. Edit button is basically the button that will toggle the editing state on and off. Delete button is actual delete operation that we want to actually perform, and it is actually calling this delete courses, which essentially going over each item in the selected index and removing that item from the courses array. Okay, and here's our view that is displaying the whole thing. All right, let's go ahead and build and run. And what we should see is basically a list. And this list actually is displaying all the courses that are there that we have actually added. And if we click on edit, what we get is edit and delete button. Now, you also notice that list, or SwiftUI rather, automatically adds these checkboxes, basically allowing us to select multiple items. So I'm going to select first 2, and I'm going to just simply remove them. And as you can see, now those items are removed. I can click on done, and those items are removed forever. Now, it's basically now from here on, it's very easy for you to bind this functionality to core data or Firebase or whatever you are using as a backend persistent store, and call that delete functionality here and simply delete those items from there instead of deleting it from the local array. But now you know how you can actually delete items from a list, or rather delete multiple items from a list. And you also learned basically how to put your view in editing state or take view out in the editing state, and how to conditionally show views. All right, so with that, we have reached the end of this video. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys in another video. Thank you.